and action. We don't have to tell anyone that we spoke a little before.
Yes. Yes.
Uh,
It's all
so,
natural.
so this is Sara Landon, everybody. And Sarah is coming to us from Santa Barbara, right?
Yes,
I
I'm in
don't
Santa
recognize
Barbara here.
your surroundings, but I'm guessing that's your place in Santa Barbara.
Yes, it's my guest house office where we get lots of work done. So it's just perfect for filming, and we love it.
I
So
love it.
yes,
And you were filling
yeah,
me in on all kinds of good technology that I'm going to steal a little bit later.
yes,
Um,
yes. All the little tips and tricks. We gotta exchange the little tips and tricks.
I know. Well, okay, so I have to start with a tip you gave me when we were doing photos. Oh my gosh, was that 3 years ago?
Yeah, about 2.5 years ago.
Two and a
Yeah,
half years?
yeah,
'Cause it was right after the fires, right? People were displaced
mhm,
by the fires and the mudslides in
yeah,
California. That's why
yeah.
we had that amazing location. Um, and you said something to me that I have been saying ever since because something about it, I felt like I could own it. And you said, yes, you're a connector. And
Mhm.
I thought, oh, of course, I've always been a connector. I just I didn't think it was a thing. And I didn't think it made a difference or amounted to very much. And you said, no, 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 connectors are very important in the world. But I also want you to talk about the other types of people um, that you were thinking of, or that I guess we were talking about manifestors and
Yeah, so it came from a course I did called the 11 Spiritual Roles for the Soul. What role or roles are you here to play? And we get so used to how the world has defined us, especially if we're on a particular career path. So you're a mother and a daughter and a sister and a friend, or a father and a brother and an uncle, and then you're a photographer, or you're a teacher, or you're a corporate executive, or you're an accountant. We get so used to those roles. And one of the things that people most often ask in my work or in my courses is, what's my purpose? Why am I here? What's my purpose? I did all the things I thought I was supposed to do. And the 11 spiritual roles just brings in this awareness that there's these other roles that you're here to play, these other roles that you're here to embody, which are really your gift to the world. There's things that just you do so naturally that contribute so profoundly to the world. And so one of those is a connector. And if you think about it, how you met your best friend, how you heard about a job, how you came across an opportunity, how you and I met, someone connected us. And connectors are so, so, so powerful in the world. And I'll share the other roles, but when I first uh, did this course, I more identified with some of the other roles. I never really thought about myself as a connector. And I thought of, people in my life who are really great connectors. And I thought, oh, that's the person that's always fixing up their single friends. Oh, that's the person that knows everybody. Or the person that has a great teacher or spiritual teacher they're currently working with, and they want to connect everybody to this person, right? But one of the interesting things is when you start being aware of those roles, you start finding ways to embody it yourself. And so while I thought of you and other people who are such great connectors, when you start being conscious and aware of these other roles, you start seeing opportunities for yourself to embody that role as a connector. And I had an experience of that. And it was funny because I connected these two people, and it was so rewarding for them. But I have to say, it was so rewarding for me. It is really that feeling of like, wow, I really am living my purpose in that moment. I can feel that I just, was in this perfect balance of giving and receiving, and me giving, I was also receiving. And so some of the other spiritual roles, a healer. Healers can be here to, and you can hear the word healer, but some people are incredible healers for animals. Some are incredible healers to water. Some people are incredible healers to the land and people. And then there's all different sorts of modalities. So you can be a healer. And the interesting thing about the 11 spiritual roles for your soul is that these are not usually abilities or skills that you learned here. oftentimes they are spontaneous abilities that come through. You're just not something you learned. You don't necessarily have a degree for this. You didn't take a certification for it. But I've had so many people that could be in a totally different line of work, and then all of a sudden they start recognizing that they have some of these other abilities, and their spiritual roles come more to the forefront. So healer, seer. Seer are these people, seer, seer. They're these people that have the ability to maybe see energy or see auras or see angels, or incredible abilities to see things with their mind and their imagination. um, I had a really wonderful client, have a really wonderful client that she is in education, and she's got lots of degrees and she's really brilliant in that. And she was going through this process where all of a sudden she could see colors, and she could see angels, and she could see all sorts of what you might refer to as elementals. And this whole world just kind of presented themselves to her, and she started writing incredible children's books. And not ever something she thought she would do, but it's this spiritual role, this ability that she came in, and it's really inspiring, and it expands your imagination. Another role is a messenger. And I initially saw myself as really one of these. Messengers are people who are bringing through messages about the awakening that is happening, about awakening, assisting in the awakening process, messages from the other side, messages from higher levels of consciousness. Some people bring through messages from particular loved ones on the other side. Other people bring through messages from animal collectives or consciousness, ocean consciousness, all sorts of incredible things. But so a messenger can also express itself in lots of different ways. I bring through messages from a higher level of intelligence called the council. And so when I'm in that channeled mode, it comes through me audibly. But some people do channeled messages or are messengers that are written messengers, and they're doing automatic writing, or they're writing books, or they're writing stories. And other people may be doing it in a format which is speaking or channeling or teaching.
Could a musician be a messenger?
Oh,
Right?
absolutely. I think
Like
that's,
channeling.
yeah, absolutely. That's such a great point. How many times in music has music inspired you to something you never thought possible, or awakened you in some way? Our dear mutual friend, Lee Harris, he's a perfect example of this. He's been an incredible channel, and now he is bringing through these beautiful songs that he's writing and composing and producing that are just so filled with messages of light and love and awakening. And yeah, really good example.
So channel messengers are channelers,
Mm-hmm.
and plus plus plus.
Yeah.
So keep going.
And
Who else do we have?
yeah, another very interesting role is the role of a transformer. And this one is kind of emotional for people sometimes, but when they actually get it, they see their life from a whole different perspective or level of awareness. A transformer is one who often incarnates or is born into or chooses a particular family situation where there's often lifetimes and a lineage of negative emotion, negative behavior, prejudice, abuse. Can be emotional abuse or physical abuse or sexual abuse. And they come in as transformers into these experiences, and they stop these patterns that have been handed down from generation to generation. They often experience it themselves, but they come into a point of consciousness and awareness, and they say, no more. This stops with me. And they end these generational patterns of abuse, alcoholism, negativity, negative beliefs, prejudice. And I have been part of some of the most profound realizations and transformations when someone really understands this piece of their spiritual role and why they chose or incarnated into some of the situations that they have, because they have been transformers.
Wow.
I
So,
have a wonderful, I'll just share something with you. I have a wonderful client who, just a beautiful woman who has been on the AA track for many years. She was born into a family where both of her parents were severe alcoholics. Their parents were alcoholics. Her siblings are alcoholics, and some have gotten into drugs and other things. And she had a very young, and she kind of took it to an extreme, and followed through with the pattern for a while. And then at one point had this awakening experience and just, came into realization and realized she's not her circumstances or conditions. And she changed her entire life. And she's been an incredible inspiration. She's an amazing teacher and human being, and an amazing mother and an amazing grandmother who did not pass this pattern down to her children or her grandchildren. And it was very empowering for her to see from a more conscious viewpoint that role as a transformer being something that empowered her instead of being something that happened to her.
wow.
Yeah.
Um, okay.
So that's an important role. There's also the dreamers. I don't think we would have art in this world. This world would lack so much beauty if it weren't for some of the dreamers. And yet, sometimes the dreamers are the ones that don't really conform to how you should be or you're supposed to be, right? They can be artists, they can be musicians, they can be those who just, really dream in a way that most of us don't allow ourselves to because we're too busy working hard and getting everything done and trying to figure everything out. And sometimes they're misunderstood as having mental illness, or not being productive, and yet they're here to be the dreamers. So much of the things that are so beautiful on our planet come from those who are here playing a little bit different role to dream of realities and potentials, bringing in music and art. And it was interesting, we're recording this in the time of the coronavirus pandemic, about 4 months into it here in the US. And I was having this interesting experience where I was reading something about coming to the end of in history, one of the greatest times was the end of the Dark Age, but we came out of the Dark Age through the Renaissance movement. And this really dark time in civilization, that what spawned from it was this inspired state, which we call the Renaissance movement or the Renaissance time. Art, beauty, dance, costume, singing, playing. And that is what brought us out of times of great despair and darkness in our history. And so it's so important to remember, while we're always trying to do our best and be good enough and work hard enough and do all the things we should or are supposed to do, right? That one of the things in history that brought us out of one of the darkest times or the darkest ages was play, music, dance, beauty, laughter, connection. Really important.
there's nothing like a little despair and pressure to force people to be
Mm-hmm.
creative,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. And when you can't go force things, and when you can't go work hard, and where you can't go just I don't want to say distract yourself, but you know, we really are here to create, to play, to expand, to express all of who we are, and to choose the experiences that you want to have for you. And sometimes we get so distracted trying to earn an effort and force that when we just allow our natural state, which is joyful and creative, creativity is to take all that is here for you and put it into some enjoyable, purposeful use. Creativity is to take all that's here for you. So, like photography, you're taking the beauty in people and places and spaces, and you're putting it all together, and you're creating something that wouldn't have existed if you wouldn't have seen the beauty in it, the joy in it, the purpose for that place and that person and that moment. And it's just incredible.
But when you say it, I also keep thinking of Steve Jobs. I keep thinking, but he was a dreamer as well.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. You absolutely.
who
And
unleashed the creativity of,
mhm.
the
Oh yeah.
planet.
We were talking about our computers before we went live here. It's one of my favorite stories. I mean, Steve Jobs, incredible person in human history, and was going to do it his way. He didn't particularly care, I think, at least from everything I understand about him, what other people thought of him. He was a visionary, and he was a dreamer, and he was going to do it his way. And so people often don't realize this, if you haven't read his story or you're not really familiar with him. Most of us think about, the end of his life, but the truth is he had founded Apple and got fired from his own company. What might look like, oh my gosh, this terrible thing is happening to you, like the end is here, this is the worst that could happen. What did he do? He went and did what he was passionate about. He went to calligraphy school. Seems irrelevant, focused on creativity, and, comes back around to come back to Apple at some point in one of the most innovative transformational times, taking all that he had become through that experience. And, how many of us now have iPhones and iPads and the Mac computers that really came from his inspiration as a dreamer and a visionary, and yet look how it's transformed our own lives in incredible ways.
Yeah. Although the irony, I don't know if I've seen both. There are two different movies about him. One is fiction, one is more of a documentary. Um, and I think the irony is that connection was what he struggled with.
Yeah.
Connecting to his daughter, his wife, staying connected to humans and not getting lost in the technology, the company, all of that. And how ironic that his tool of connection both gives us and takes away our ability to connect to people,
Yeah.
depending on how you use it.
Yeah. Very interesting perspective.
Right?
Very
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah. It's, like your greatest strength taken to any extreme becomes your greatest weakness. And, all of my teaching and the work that I do is about bringing in a grander perspective of the human experience, a higher level of consciousness and awareness of what is possible for us, and maybe about what this experience really is about.
Mhm.
It's a perfect example of these spiritual roles. Like, what if he came here to bring that technology? What if he came here to the technology that he did into the human experience to expand our ability to connect, right? So then you can understand why his role as a dreamer and a visionary was so important to him, where someone like you or some other person where connection is so important. uh, does the tool itself, if we take an iPhone, for example, or we take technology, especially in this time of the coronavirus, right? This thing called Zoom or these different platforms we can connect all over the world. It is in a lot of ways connecting us. But when we use it as a way to, it's distract ourselves, it all comes back to ourself being conscious and present in the moment in whatever we're doing. It is our own connection to ourself. The council says that every relationship is merely a reflection of your own relationship to source or the self within you. And so it's not something outside of us that can create that disconnection. It's our own, experience of that. And it is just a continually checking in. Am I present within this experience fully connecting to all that's available to me in this moment.
That's what I say about photography, that
Hmm.
it is a relationship that is a reflection of me
Yeah,
and my
absolutely.
ability to connect in that moment with the other who is a reflection of me. It's such a bizarre,
Yeah,
cool,
yeah,
awesome thing. But people say to me all the time, aren't you ever in the picture? And I say, yes, I'm in every picture.
yeah, yeah.
That's the magic of it. And
Hmm.
it's the part I'm still struggling to figure out. I feel like I've been in a bit of a limbo place for a few years, um, trying to figure out what to call it, because it doesn't seem enough to say I'm a photographer. Maybe I need to identify a different little niche or something, um, because I literally want the whole world to see photography differently. And it's the exact same thing as the tool that Steve Jobs created. It can be used for connection or disconnection. Photography can be used for connection or disconnection. Photography is connection or disconnection.
Hmm.
It's surface. It's a surface image, or it's something so much deeper. That's what I loved about that conversation I had with Sue Morter about it, where she was
Hmm.
saying you're getting at that thing that's the essence of the person, because that's what you want. That's what you're looking for it, and when you find it, and not everybody's even looking for it.
Yeah. And so you may embrace some of that instead of saying you're a photographer, because then we all go, oh, I know what that is.
Mm.
Where if you said, I connect people with a clear reflection of their essence, some sort of thing like that. I'm connecting.
Yeah.
What are you connecting, right? I'm connecting this with this.
Well, I say that I have been saying that quite a lot, where I connect people with themselves. I connect them with their own inner beauty, and I connect them with their spirit that connects them with their people, their
Mhm.
tribe. Like when a person really
Yeah.
sees who you are, they know if they want to work with you or not.
Yeah.
But until they see it, they don't necessarily know. Or if they are seeing the illusion, then that's where they're like, I don't know, it looks good. Is it real? Is it fake? You know, is it TV? Is it, what is it?
Yeah. 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 It's uh, so often we talk about your light, right? Shining your light. We know that we are a soul or a spiritual being, or we come from this higher consciousness. We're these, eternal beings, right? So you're capturing the essence of that eternal being, that vibrational imprint, that vibrational signature. And you are reflecting that in a way that others who know that vibrational imprint and signature can connect and find each other in the world. And I mean, I can say that firsthand, having worked with you and the incredible work that you do. So many times people would say, I just saw your picture and I just felt like I was coming home. I
Yeah.
felt like I just found the place where I belonged. And that's the unique thing about what you do, is you provide that opportunity for someone to be fully seen in all that they are, so that those who are meant to connect, or that are looking for that vibrational signature imprint in the world, can find it.
Can feel it. Yeah, it's almost like sound compressed, right? Because, well, I mean,
Yeah.
sound is a vibration, and I'm taking light, and it's funny, I've never thought of it like this, but
Mhm.
I'm compressing the light into a frozen vibrate, like I'm freezing the vibration just enough so that you can see it and then pass it on.
Yeah,
Because
you're
I remember
capturing
when I saw it,
capturing the vibration.
yeah, I remember when I first saw a picture of you, maybe Lee sent it to me or something, and I thought, oh, she's so beautiful, but I can tell this doesn't capture her energy. Like I didn't
Mhm.
feel, I think we had spoken on the phone, maybe I was looking at the
Yeah.
same time at the picture. And I've had this experience with a number of people. I even have a story about a particular Malala picture where I'm looking at it and I know I didn't take it because I can feel the shutdown that happens. It's like behind the eyes, or
Mhm.
it's very hard to describe what it is. I
Yeah.
tried to show it to
Yeah.
people. I mean, if I show you a picture of yourself and you're like, yeah, no, that's not quite,
Yeah.
the thing that, um, the thing that makes you choose a picture and say, I like this picture of me because it feels like me.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it's
Yeah.
the picture that feels like you.
Yeah.
It's very weird.
I love the way that you say it's, when we talk about vibration, there's a lot of, to me in my work, the thing that is so important is it has to be applicable. We use all these spiritual terms and, spiritual teachings and all these things, but it's like, if you can't really bring it into your own experience and go, oh, like, I get how I live that, how that matters day life. And I think you just had a realization of that, we both did as you were talking. It's like, we know what we really are is energy. We're energy that is in a physical body. So there's a level of density in it that slows our rate of vibration, which makes us a pure solid. Everything is vibration. It makes us a pure solid. But when you can also expand, right, that experience, that vibration in something that like a photograph or an image, when you can capture that vibration, when you've got it, right? It's the same thing. It's that being in the zone thing. When you think of an athlete, that they just don't have to think about all of it. They're just following energy. There's this energy, there's this light that is guiding them, that they just hit the perfect pitch and they, make the perfect shot. Or uh, an Olympian or a musician, it is all vibration. And if we understand how that plays out in our life, then our entire reality begins to change.
So is that what you do? Do you coach people in this way? I mean,
Mhm.
using those different, the soul purposes, and is it coaching that you call it, or because obviously to me it feels
Um,
much bigger than that.
yeah, there is some component of what I do where I um, work with people one-on-one in a multiple session, private series. But I would say the basis of, so if you're not familiar with channeling, let me just make it really understandable and approachable, consumable. It's a very natural thing. We all do it. We all have these moments where, we don't even remember what we just said. It just came through us. Or when you are a painter, an artist, or a musician, when you're just so in something that is just flowing through you, it's this experience of source that flows through us. And so, how it expresses through me is I receive a higher level of consciousness and awareness from a collective that I refer to as the council, that I tune into them in a higher level of consciousness. And my voice changes a little bit, the cadence of my speech changes a little bit, but it is, in my experience, the most profound wisdom that answers the questions that I had in this life experience that nobody could explain to me. It's
Hmm.
a grander perspective of the human experience. It's a much greater viewpoint of who we are and why we're here and what's possible for us. And so the wisdom of the council in channeling those higher level perspectives, bringing in a greater awareness and consciousness. And a big part of what I do is share with people, how do you integrate that in your life and how do you live it on an everyday basis? So you can be listening to their wisdom and just be in this completely transcended state of pure bliss and joy. But then how do you really take it and live it in your everyday life? And so I have a variety of different online courses like The Journey of the Master, The Path of the Way Shower, The 11 Spiritual Roles for the Soul, which are all channeled courses that are channeled information about those things, as well as integration of those. I also have a master's class membership community where we do live channeled messages every month about, the state of affairs, what's up in the ethers, what are we really coming into, and then I talk about how to integrate it. So it's a variety of different ways, and as the council would say, it's like in these spiritual roles, whether you're a messenger or a connector, find the way that's fun for you. I have lots of friends like Lee Harris and others that are incredible channels, and we all do it a little bit differently.
Mm.
How we create our communities, our products, our services, how we share our gifts with the world is unique to everyone. And part of that is just being really clear on who you are and how you want to share your gift with the world. People ask so often, what should I do? What am I supposed to do? I had someone in a recent course say, I just don't feel like I have a really good relationship with Source because I ask Source to tell me what my passions are, and my higher self doesn't really communicate that to me. And that part is actually your job. It's your job to sift through this world, and we're here for our own expansion. I used to love the word soul. I used to really use the word soul a lot. Now I come to understand that we are consciousness. Our consciousness is not limited to the body. And when we make our transition and we leave the physical form, our consciousness is that thing that goes on. I believe your light and your consciousness is what makes up what we might call the being or the soul. But you are experiencing this incredible human experience, and you're here for the expansion of your soul. You're here for the expansion of your consciousness. Every experience you have provides data and information, and in that, we never meant to get so obsessed with what we don't like. We were meant to kind of sift through and really focus on what we do like.
Right.
It's kind of like going to a buffet, and you pick the thing on the buffet that tastes the worst to you, but that's what you talk about, and you get a big plate of it, like whatever you really dislike. Like, I don't like mustard, so it'd be me putting all this food on my plate, putting mustard all over it, and then going back to my friends and saying, here, you should taste this. This is so awful. This is so bad. I don't like this. I hate this. Why did this here, blah, 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 right? Versus, what do I really love? Go to the buffet, get the things you really love, and share that. Talk about that. Eat that. Enjoy that, right? So your passions are what you discover,
Buffet is basically unlimited.
Absolutely. And yeah, there might be things you've never tried before on it. If you don't like it, then just go back to what you do like, or focus on what you do like. But we sometimes get stuck in that thinking we have to eat what we don't like, or we have to do what we don't want to do. And the truth is, if you will really feel when you're experiencing joy, and you're totally satiated by all that is, when you really allow yourself to play and create and have fun here and focus on the beauty and all of the good that is really here in the world for us. We're also here to express all that you are. The council would say that you are source. You are that which you call God. And you are experiencing different levels of consciousness as source. So there is not bad, awful, terrible. There are different levels of consciousness. And I think we would all agree, the more conscious you become focused on doing less harm and doing more good. You live from a more abundant, greater state of love and well-being. So while we might want to look at things in the world and judge them as bad or wrong, this to me is the number one thing that I see that keeps people from really moving into enlightenment and realization, is that the last sort of step is judgment. And if you're willing to just let go of judging yourself, judging others, judging the circumstances and conditions, and know that everything is here to really help you remember your power, to remember the truth of who you really are, to bring you into realization, it shifts your whole experience. And people often feel, I think especially now, this deep desire to really express who they are. You kind of mentioned that in saying that over the last few years, you've been really trying to find the way to explain who you are. And that's a big part of why we're here. You're here to express all that you are. And you are your source. You are the source that creates worlds. You are eternal. You are the God force. You are that. And we're either allowing that or we're denying that. You know, we deny that by saying, well, I'm not smart enough, or I'm not good enough, or I don't have enough money yet, or I don't have what I want yet. So
I
we,
think my version is to
yeah,
say, I'm not doing it big enough yet.
yeah,
And I
I'm
know
not
I'm not
enough.
alone in this. Like I should be doing so much more. I mean, really, is this enough? Like to make pretty pictures? I mean, come on, there's got to be more than that. Um, Also because sometimes I think, well, this is too easy. Like for me, this is too easy. And the connecting thing, it's too much fun. It's too easy. The finding the beauty in everything, it's super fun. It's too easy. Like, shouldn't it be harder? Maybe that's how I grew up, like no pain, no gain, or something like that. But I'm not alone,
But
right? I mean, a lot of people say that, don't they?
yeah, yeah. I think those are probably two of the predominant things we address in this work, and that, you know, from a higher perspective of consciousness, you begin to shift that and see it differently. Life is meant to be harmonious. It really is simple. The teachings from higher consciousness are actually really simple. But if you do not believe you're worthy, if you don't believe you're enough yet, you keep making it harder and difficult to earn your worth, to earn being enough. So when you come into awareness of your absolute infinite worth, you are perfect, yet always expanding and becoming more. You're always expanding and becoming more, but that doesn't mean that you're not perfect in who you are right now. And so most people are unconsciously moving through life motivated by avoiding unwanted circumstances. Motivation is avoiding unwanted circumstances. And yet most everyone would tell me they want to live more inspired. They want more inspired action, inspired ideas. They want more inspiration, and they want to have a better relationship with their own intuition. They want more intuition. They want a better relationship with their higher self. Yet, what drives them on a day-to-day basis is this motivation to constantly avoid unwanted circumstances. And the number one thing is not being enough. That not being enough, haven't done enough. And ultimately, that comes down to avoiding the unwanted experience that somehow you could get your purpose wrong, your whole purpose for being here in this life wrong. You could fail, right? It's sort of this idea that there's a man on a cloud called God that's going to judge you and punish you for your sins because you didn't do it right, or you didn't get enough done here. You didn't please God.
Hmm. I call it fear of putting my ladder up against the wrong wall.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
God
Yeah.
forbid I should climb a ladder and get to the top and say, oops, wrong wall. I really didn't want
Yeah.
this.
And the council would say every ladder, every road, every path you take, and people always ask, am I on the right path, or am I on the wrong path? It all leads you back to you.
Right.
It's about the experience you had on the way to the top of that ladder.
Mm-hmm.
It's about what you saw, who you met, the experiences you had. It all contributes to your expansion, but it all leads you back to you. You get on the top, you get to the top of the ladder, and you're still there with you.
Yeah.
You're halfway up the ladder, you're still there with you. So are you enjoying you? Do you love you? Do you experience all the beauty and the joy and the passion? Are you allowing you to be totally satiated on this journey up the ladder? Doesn't really matter what ladder
Right.
you're climbing, right?
Well,
So,
I think I got bored of ladders altogether, and I said, you know what? It's like time for an adventure, time for more
mhm,
adventures. I
yeah,
love big adventures. Uh,
yeah.
I love random. I love what happens when you let go of plans and
Hmm.
like toss the map out the window and say, wherever I go,
Yeah,
I'll end up there.
yeah, yeah. It's I, I am like a, recovering corporate professional and executive. I'm like a type A, as I would always consider myself. So not only did I have a plan, I had a plan A and a plan B and a plan C and a plan D. I mean, I just, it was always this constant motivation to achieve more, do more,
Mm.
be more, always with a plan, always had it figured out. And then I wondered why, when my deepest desire was to know that, with God, with source, like anything was possible. Like I wanted more than anything this relationship with my, that I, from my limited human
Oh,
perspective,
you cut
wanted
out
to
there.
figure
You
it out
said you wanted a relationship with.
with source, my higher self. I wanted that experience, and yet I wanted to figure it all out from my limited human perspective.
Mm.
And I wanted to make it all happen, and I wanted to do it all my way. And, it wasn't really until I realized that exactly what you just said. It's like there's this energy and there's this light that is always guiding you, no matter where you are, no matter who you are. But you only can tell where the energy and the light is guiding you if you're in the moment. When you're trying to figure things out 3 months from now, you don't know where the energy is going to be. You can only know from this moment. And I remember reading Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now many years ago, and I'm like, I don't know how this helps me achieve more, or, but man, now I get it in such a different way. It's like, no, everything is just in the moment. So everything is a journey and adventure. And it's about staying conscious and present in the moment to let energy and light guide you from this place here. And are you allowing all the beauty that's here for you in this moment, and the joy and the love?
I wonder if that's why people who travel love travel so much,
Mm-hmm.
because you get into that place of the moment. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm just thinking of the trip I had last year where I kind of let go of my itinerary, my plan. I bought one plane ticket and I
Yeah.
flew to San Francisco for one job, and everything else that happened was like some sort of miracle that happened on the way. And I
Yeah.
rented a car and then I extended it because other things happened. I met Lee on that trip by accident. I was on my way to Denver and he was there. And I said, I'll see you Sunday. He said, oh, we're leaving. And I said, I'll be there in a couple hours.
Yeah.
And that turned into some whole other, I mean, it was just, um,
Just
yeah,
allowing. Just
people
allowing.
who are traveling without hard itineraries, I think, end up having the most beautiful journeys and magical stories of things that happened
Mhm.
by accident,
Yeah.
um, that were better
Yeah.
than anything they could have planned, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the most, I think, profound perspectives that the council has that they share with us is, if you really want to understand what your life experience is, the best example we could give you is to understand that you are here not to write some bad karma from the past. You're not here to learn a whole bunch of lessons. You're not here to earn God's love or your way into heaven. You are here on a vacation. That's what your life experience is. You are here for a very limited amount of time. And why did you come? To have new experiences, to try new things, to meet new people, to go new places, to explore, to rest, to do the things that you love to do, to have a grand adventure. That's not just when we go on vacation, it's really the purpose for our whole life experience and why we came here is a vacation.
So I've been doing a pretty good job, actually.
You're doing a great job.
Oh
You're
my
doing
gosh.
a great job. But it's like, how do we live
Yeah.
that way? You know, the very first time I went overseas, I traveled to Athens, Greece, and I flew there by myself. I got there by myself. I was going for a work thing, but I wasn't going to meet people for a couple of days. And I'm in a foreign country for the first time. I was all by myself. I was quite young at the time, and it was very humbling, like very humbling. I remember flying from Seattle to Athens, and I stopped a couple times on the way, but I mean, even thinking about how many people I flew over, how many different places in the world, it was so humbling. And I was like, how is it in the US, we think we know it all and we've got it all figured out. And here's like civilizations that are thousands and thousands of years old. Like my appreciation, my humility, my awareness was just on such a bigger level. And it's like, so why isn't that we have that same level of expansiveness and curiosity and humility walking down the same road that we walk down every day? Because there is, every day there's something new there for you, even if you walk down the same road. If you like to go hike or walk your dogs out in nature, it's like, if we really just let it be,
Hmm.
and our job is to witness all of the beauty,
Hmm. I
to
used to
really
make it
take
this
it all in.
challenge to photograph the exact same beach at the exact same time on different days in different ways. Just like, is
Just
it possible to
beautiful.
see it with new eyes every single time? And it was.
Yeah.
I thought, oh, this would be a fabulous series of, 52 weeks at the beach or
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever, because it is absolutely possible to see the exact same thing differently because you're different
Mhm.
every day.
Mhm.
But it's
Mhm.
funny because what you just laid out is my struggle of like consistency, history. I feel like I was an archivist or something in some other lifetime.
Mhm.
Record, I was like some sort of a record keeper. I love books, I love history, people's albums, um, family stories, things like that. And then there's this other part of me that says, dump it all, let's go, like let's jump on a plane and
Yeah.
enough with the history books, let's
Mhm.
go write some history. It's a
Again, you're just like the ultimate connector, right? So those things connect you to other experiences and other times and other, realities. And, it's a perfect example. And then, thinking about you photographing the same place at the beach, it's like connecting you to a different moment in the same place 52 different times. Like
Mhm.
it's just, you are the essence of what it means to be here and be connected and connect. It's incredible. And yet allow that to be enough,
Mm.
allow that to be enough, that you
I
find
think after
all of these
today I
different ways
will.
to create connections. Yeah.
I think you maybe you fixed me.
Like, how many people would not know someone? I mean, I even, in the time we've spent together, I can think of all the people that I'd never heard of or never knew, because you connect people. So think about that. Just take one person that
Yeah.
and think about all the different people you've connected them to and all the different things you've connected them to.
Yeah.
And or even someone that you've photographed, like myself. How many people that I've connected to because you are a connector? And when you really let yourself be in that and you start going, wow, all these things that I've connected, like all of a sudden you really feel this, like, I really am living my purpose. And all of these things that would not have happened in so many people's lives happened because I'm a connector, because I'm here embodying this role of a connector on the planet at this time. And
Mm.
you'll feel like you're living your purpose, like, wow, how could I ever do anything more to be enough? Because all I've done is so incredible.
And
It's just a shift in
I
our
think about how
perspective.
much fun it is. You know,
Yeah.
people ask me why I was doing these little whatever this is. And I said, well, it's the same as what I do when I'm shooting, but I can't shoot right now. So I'm just connecting without my camera, and
Yeah.
in a funny way with a camera because we're both on a camera. Um, Plus, I've always felt like I always wanted people to meet my friends anyway, because I think I have these insanely cool friends that I meet in the strangest ways. And I love that I do this and I don't know how it's going to turn out. I just post it, put it out there. If you like this person, you will find this person for your own purposes, whatever that could be. So that's interesting. Um, so it's just it's a different extension of what the photography is. And it brings me joy to do it, even though, like, does it make money? No, that's the thing. I don't want to confuse value with money,
Mm-hmm.
even though I would love to have boatloads more money. But uh, if you gave me a choice and said you can either do this or you can have a lot of money, I'd say, well, no, I'm going to keep doing this.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
because oh my god, and one of the things I also noticed, this was interesting. A few years ago, I went to one of those big events. It's called Celebrate Your Life, and it was full of, the who's who of Hay House speakers. That's where I met Sue Morter the first time. It's where I met Anita Morjani the first time. Um, I don't remember how I originally met Lee, but when I met Lee, I thought to myself, I want you to meet both Anita and Sue. And I just have these instincts about people who should know each other. And that sort of thing happens all the time. But I also learned at that event that the audience is full of people who ought to know each
Yeah.
other. And you know, we live in such a funny culture, sort of a celebrity driven culture, where we put the person on the stage in a separate place from the person in the audience. And that's just not true. I mean, it's some illusion that we've created, like if a person's famous or on TV or whatever it is, they're different or more special, or I don't know, maybe they've just harnessed their soul energy a little better. But we're all that same stuff. And then then I meet these people and I'm thinking, well, you should be on TV. So come on my TV and like we'll be on TV.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Like isn't that so great that this medium even exists? I mean, I think that's why it exists. I think it's why YouTube and Zoom and all of it. I think it exists because we are learning the power of the individual. And we don't need to have just channel 2, channel 4, and channel 5 anymore.
Yeah.
We're past that.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's really room for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a purpose for everyone. It's you can stand on a stage and you can, I, I feel so blessed in my life that I get to do this work, and it's so meaningful to me when someone says, you changed my life, or, everything's changed since blah, blah, blah. But equally as important, when you go to the grocery store and you just look someone in the eye and you listen to them and you connect with them,
Yeah.
and your own presence makes them feel seen in maybe a way they never have before. Just you being there. And then there's those days that it's like you can change someone's life today just by you being you and sharing your story and speaking your truth. You have no idea in what ways that may change someone else's life or the trajectory of their life forever. So, very early on when I started doing this work, I had this vision of me like standing on a stage saying, we're going to have a great discussion here today, but we have to make one promise. Like, you can't give me your power. Like, I'm just standing on the stage, but whatever you see in me exists in you. And I don't have some power that you don't have. nobody standing on any stage anywhere has some power that you don't have.
Mm.
They may be doing their joy. Some people really enjoy speaking from a stage. Some people really enjoy being on camera. Some people really enjoy being present with others. All of it matters and all of it serves.
Mm.
And it's back to just the basic ripple effect. You just never know. You could be walking down the grocery store aisle. Someone could have just had the worst experience of their life, and you looked them in the eye and smiled, and that's what kept them from, giving up, or, having an experience where someone else was harmed, or just, you being conscious in those moments. We really have no idea from our perspective what's really going on. You can tell when you're in the right moment, in the right place at the right time. You can tell when the energy's in something, but it's like, we just never know. We just never know why we are where we are, or why we're talking to who we're talking to. You can just feel, though, when you're there. And I think that's when someone's speaking from a stage and they're just shining so brightly, or they're in a movie, they're on a camera, they're just in that thing. And the more you can allow yourself to just be in that thing,
Mm.
you serve in ways that you could never, ever understand.
Yes, I love that. And I feel like I can see when people have that thing. And it's
Mhm.
not, it's sometimes it's on a stage, sometimes it's in a grocery store. It's,
Yeah.
people laugh at me and say, "Oh, you could talk to anybody." I'm like, "Yeah,
Mhm.
because there's so many amazing people everywhere, everywhere.
Yeah.
In the line at the airport, or the in the
Yeah.
taxi. I mean, how many people have met the most incredible taxi drivers?"
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It's
yeah.
funny that you say that. I forget about this sometimes, but when I was like 13 years old, I went on a trip and with my dad, and my dad had to fly out early for business. And so I ended up taking this taxi. This is, many, many years ago. And I talked to this guy, this man was so interesting in his life. And he'd had just really interesting experiences with Bruce Springsteen. And he and I wrote letters back and forth for, it's been almost 30 years, and we still write letters back and forth. This taxi driver that I met when I was a teenager, and he's just been an inspiration to me. So you just never know. You just never know. This completely incredible, divinely orchestrated world. But I wanted to mention something about what you were saying about creating these videos and not knowing where it's going to go. We have really gotten, I think, when we're in that staying motivated and conscious and setting goals and taking massive determined action, everything has to have a motive. Why are you doing this? And how are you monetizing it? And it takes us so far away from that, just like purity and
Yeah.
that innocence. And it's like, when you were a kid and you drew a picture, you weren't drawing it going, okay, how much money am I going to make when I sell this picture? And, it's like, do it for you, write it for you, paint it for you, do it because you love it. I do what I do because I love it. Like, there is nothing more exciting to me or inspiring to me than like this channeled wisdom that comes through me, and I listen to it and I study it, and it changes my life and expands like, I do it because I love it. And I never, when I was in the corporate world, first off, if anybody would have told me, you're going to be a channel and teaching spirituality and consciousness, I would have been like, no, the wrong person. But I remember the times when I was like, how in the heck am I going to I have a career and an income, and I have responsibilities, and I have bills, and I know I'm supposed to be doing this. Clearly this is what lights me up and what I'm feeling guided to do. And I could not figure out at all how I was going to monetize it, but I just kept following the path.
Yeah.
And the most incredible things happened that I never could have figured out. I never planned for.
Mm.
Even if I, and in times that I did create a business model of things, it was never what I had figured out that made the greatest impact. It was the things that just came, the people that came, the opportunities that just came. My favorite, we both have blue on. So it's like the out of the blue. Whenever I say out of the blue, that's like code word from like totally amazing divine orchestration that my human from this perspective never could have orchestrated to be as incredible as it is.
Right. Because the figuring out part is the problem.
Because we limit it. We
Yeah.
always limit it. We
Always
always limit
limited.
it.
Like, I can't figure any more than this little thing will allow me to figure. And that's never how the great stuff happens.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, we're perceiving through our limited human senses, and we are so much more than that. And we're connected to something so much more than that. And I remember as a kid thinking like, this doesn't make any sense. Like this guy, this man named God is sitting on a cloud. He knows where all 7 billion of us are, and he knows what we're thinking, what we're doing. I don't know that I trust that to like surrender to, right?
And I wanted
And
to
it
know why
wasn't.
it was a man. Why is it a man? Like,
Yeah. And it wasn't until I really came into this awareness that it's like, it's my higher self that is always one with God. Like it is my own higher self. Call it your soul, divine being, higher conscience. It's you.
hmm,
And it's you always working on behalf of you, orchestrating these things from a higher perspective. And when we're perceiving, and it's awesome, like we get to be here in this human experience, we get to see, hear, taste, touch, smell, and thinking is also a human sense. Like it's a perceiving mechanism. And so we get to be here to smell the flowers and see the beautiful sunsets and feel someone's hug or hear someone say, I love you. We get to really be satiated on a human level with these incredible human senses. We just didn't intend to limit our entire experience to that. We never meant to forget that grander part of us. We never meant to try to do it all on our own and, to I'll believe it when I see it sort of thing. You'll see it, when you believe it, when you allow energy and light to guide you and you allow yourself to be part of this bigger whole and greater orchestration. When you allow that, then everything just changes in the most incredible way.
yeah. Well, that makes me think of so many things. I just saw someone on it was in an Indian newspaper that said someone feels like they're getting closer to a cure or whatever for COVID through sound healing. And
Mm.
someone on my page said, like, oh no, just no. And I said, no to what? And they said, oh, that's ridiculous. And what you just said, that is what I was thinking. You'll see it when you believe it. And I thought, this person isn't anywhere near believing it. Most people I know would have no problem with saying, of course, like, sound is healing, sound is vibration can heal the energy vibration of another thing. Um, and then I thought, yes, but enough people have to believe it
Mm-hmm.
in order to see it. Um,
Yeah.
and aren't we living in such a funny time where the walls are breaking down
Mm-hmm.
more and more?
Well, therein lies a few more of the spiritual roles, which is the way shower and the guide. And part of that is to step into higher potentials and possibilities, to really begin to expand into greater uh, levels of consciousness that allow greater potentials and possibilities, and to show others the way, but then to also bring those things into the human experience. We are seeding human consciousness with greater potentials and possibilities just by being here in a physical body. So while we might receive guidance and higher awareness, we still are moving it into the physical experience through us being here in a body in human consciousness. So the there's, you know, the 100 monkey effect, right? This idea that, you know, once 100 monkeys go down the same path and 100 monkeys go to this side of the island and eat the coconut, then all the other monkeys sort of follow.
Mm.
A lot of people would say that's not based in truth, but you know, really, when you take the analogy of, if for lifetimes and lifetimes people, the way they got from one side of the water to the other side of the water was to go through the river, and you get wet and you know, your hair gets wet, you get swept down the river and you scrape your knee and your elbow and you're always having to wait unless the water's high or low and it's just a mess, right? If somebody built a bridge to get to the water, you know, the other side of the water more easily, you don't really care. You just take the bridge. You just take the easier, more effortless, harmonious way. So, you know, part of that is being these bridge builders to
Mm.
potentials and possibilities
Yeah.
that, you know, I remember years ago this awareness that the pyramids in Egypt were actually sound healing chambers, that they were built as healing chambers to properly contain sound and vibration that would heal, you know, the human body of anything. And either they were used for that or they were created for that. And so I think we are just barely understanding, remembering the power of sound in the healing process and in the healing experience. But again, if your consciousness is that you're just a human and your consciousness level does not allow for the possibility that you are vibration and energy and consciousness and more than this body, then it's hard to come to a place where you can understand how the vibration of sound would create an alignment in the body to healing. But yet when you elevate your consciousness and your awareness, then all of a sudden, you know, you remember there's a greater truth there, there's greater potential there. And that's why we do what we do, you and me and all of the people that are on this path. You know, the council would say the greatest way that you serve, is raising your own vibration and raising your own consciousness level, raising your own consciousness out of limitation and the limited beliefs you have about what's possible, raising your own vibration, transcending worry, transcending fear, transcending judgment of yourself and others. You know, that's our most important thing. And in that, you know, we contribute to raising the consciousness level and the vibration. Uh, and I truly believe that's where we create a world where there's peace and joy and harmony and well-being. The answer to that is consciousness.
Right. Be the ripple. Be the stone or the ripple effect or whatever that is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Would
So
my last question, I think, because I don't want to go. Well, I personally would go forever, but um, what does your own spiritual practice look like?
experiencing as much joy and beauty in every day as possible. My spiritual practice is having as many moments throughout the day where I am feeling totally satiated by all that is here for me.
Mm.
I think one of my spiritual practices right now that has been just completely transformative and life-changing to me is just assuming that everything that's happening is happening for me and is serving in my own realization. So whatever that is, I had an experience about a month ago where I found this tumor on my dog, and that normally would have just like caused worry, fear, all these things. And, you know, I just practiced what I teach, which is, you know, when I practice what I teach, my life is awesome. You know, when I don't, I really see it as an opportunity of like, okay, like, you know, what is that? But it always comes back to staying conscious and present. And if I go into, oh, that's terrible, or oh, that's bad, then I'm entangled with the fear. I'm entangled with the worry. I'm entangled with the limitation. When I really stay conscious and I go, okay, how could this be happening for me? How could this be serving in my own realization or enlightenment? How could this be awakening me to greater levels of my own power? And as soon as I make that shift, all of a sudden, all these potentials and gifts and blessings that could be part of this. So, instead of suffering for days and days, stressing and worrying and being in fear, I can catch it in just a couple of minutes and shift it. And that, like, my life is my spiritual practice. Finding my way back to inner harmony, no matter what is going on in the world around me. And, some days that's meditation. Some days that's a run. Some days that's being around lots of people. Some days that's, being really quiet and going within. So there's not a rigidity to it. Like, I have to do 15 push-ups and meditate 15 minutes and eat 15 carrots and, tap my head 15 times. Like, it's more of living it in every moment.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Really
So I don't
living
even
it.
have to ask you how you're handling the pandemic, because it's the same. It's the exact-
Very early on in March or so, I did a couple of channeled messages from the council about it that are both available on YouTube under Sara Landon Life. There's two of them. One is about the COVID Corona-19, and one of is navigating change during difficult times. And I can tell you, I have not had a moment of fear. There are times that I have to catch myself and go, okay, this is happening for me. Let's see the blessing in this. I have tremendous compassion because I know, as coming from a family of small business owners and so many friends that are affected by this, it doesn't mean that I don't have tremendous love and compassion. But I believe we are going through the greatest transformation of consciousness that will ever exist on our planet. I think on the other side of it, we're going to see the innovation. We're going to see the inspiration that came. We're going to see all sorts of things. For example, what if all of this pursuit for a cure for corona leads us to a greater understanding of the human body that allows us to cure cancer? That's totally possible. Mm-hmm. That's a potential here. And, it is just about holding that space, which is, in time, if we allow it and we choose it, we can see the gift in everything, even if it's uncomfortable in the moment.
Yeah.
I want my favorite photographer to come take some new headshots for me. And, I just have to accept that it'll be perfect timing whenever she gets here.
Your favorite photographer wants to get on a plane so badly. And yeah.
And yet it's just this acceptance of, I'm exactly where I need to be.
I also
we're
have,
exactly where
and
we
I know
need
we're
to be.
all having a funny relationship with time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also really quite easy about just saying, okay, if it's not now, a month from now, or if it's not a month from now, 6 months from now. And it is quite funny how we've all gotten to this place where time doesn't have the same cadence that it did. We don't know what day it is. We do, and they all blur together, and it's become a sort of global joke, right?
Yeah.
And I love
it's funny that you say that. One of the things in one of those messages that I was mentioning was this woman said, she asked a question in the channel that, is this the end of time that has been prophesized by so many, by the Bible, is this the end of time? And the council said, it absolutely is, but not the way you mean it.
That is brilliant.
Absolutely. And so time and space, like linear time, exists only in lower levels of consciousness. as we elevate our consciousness, we begin to move beyond the limitation of linear time. And that's what so many of us are experiencing right now. So yeah, it is the end of time. Like, I got to be here and I got to be here and my whole life is scheduled and I got to be there and I got to pick up the kids and I got to do this and it's the end of that experience of time. Absolutely. And I don't, you know, I mean this in the most inspiring, exciting way, but I do not believe we are going to ever go back to the way it was. And that's a really good thing.
No, I don't think we can. I, who wants that? You know,
Yeah.
who wants that?
We've come this far, we've come this far. And, it's amazing. So before we go, same question back to you.
Mhm.
Your spiritual practices.
Well, I like your answer so much because it lets me off the hook of, that my 15 minutes doesn't look like 15 minutes and 15 taps and 15 carrots. And um, because you know what? Different days, different things, different experiences are right. Honestly, probably my favorite is walking in the woods or walking at the beach. And
Yeah.
I like it to be an hour. I kind of don't like anyone to come with me. It's all I can do to take my dogs, and I prefer not to have them on a leash because that's the freedom I need to just be in nature. Um, and then this is crazy, but my other spiritual practice, I call it my think tank. It's my shower. I mean,
Yeah.
seriously, it's where everything lets go to the place where I can, um, inspiration comes in more easily. Also, this chair, I mean, this is my meditation chair. Sometimes I work here. So sometimes it's so funny. Sometimes it's a place, sometimes it's a action. Um, yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
there's not as much yoga as I'd like there to be, but my physical is different things at different times.
Yeah.
Um, and then the one piece I'm missing is the adventure, um, the following of intuition as it happens in places that are unfamiliar. Because boy, oh boy, that's so big for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of people are experiencing that right now of, that was such a big part of their life, of travel and being on the road. And how do you cultivate a sense of adventure, even though, every day is sort of like Groundhog's Day, right? Waking up in the same place and the same, things. But it's like, how do you make every day an adventure within that? And I think that's a spiritual practice as well.
Well, and I did it here. We were allowed to go outside. I know your parks got closed and things like that. I found new parks. I found places to go where I would see no one, and basically new deserted areas. And then I wouldn't tell anybody where they were. Please don't come to my woods. I'm not telling you.
Yeah. I think nature is, I mean, and look at our relationship with nature in this experience. For most people, that has been one of their saving graces, is that they could still go out in nature. They've reconnected with nature. They now have the time to be in nature the way they always have wanted to be. And yet, one of the things I consider myself a environmentally friendly, conscious person, but I think one of the first big awarenesses I had in the first month or so of Corona was like realizing how much I consume, the how much I use and how much I consume. And just, I do think a big part of all of this, the council has shared that all viruses are about balance, bringing balance to systems. And the greatest thing that you can do in your own life is keep your own system, your own environment in balance. But it's this has to come first. When we ourselves come into a state of balance and harmony within ourselves, within our own system, then we begin to be able to create that in the world around us. And that is from their perspective, bigger reason for why this pandemic or why this virus is happening for us on the planet at this time.
Which also explains how it's completely different for every person.
Yes.
If you
Because
have three kids, if you have one kid, if you have a grown kid, if you have no kids, if you have a spouse who is abusive, if you have no one, everyone's having a different experience. If you don't have a pet, if you wish you had a pet, I'm so fascinated by if you live in an urban situation versus like more of nature, I'm fascinated by what was happening in New York City, because cities are going to be forever changed by this. Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing, and when we do step back and just look at it, don't you just feel yourself coming into a greater level of empowerment instead of being, in fear, and why is this happening to me, and living in this state of fear, when we can step back and really look at it. That's I think one of the practices that I've really adopted in all of this is like, okay, like really catching myself. Like, the most important thing right now is to stay in balance. What does that feel like to me? I know when I'm in balance and I know when I'm not. And it's like catching myself to stop. If I'm not in balance, the most important thing for me is to stop, come back into the moment, take some deep breaths, and ask myself, what do I need in order to get back into balance? And it might mean a walk without my dogs, because walking them might, it might mean you take a walk by yourself. It might mean that you just tell everybody, hey, I need to go take a bath.
Yeah.
And then I can come back and support you in whatever you need. But that is the thing that I did not do before this coronavirus experience, that I started doing immediately after that message about how important it was to stay in a balance. And it's
that you didn't,
it's
like,
very
you didn't
powerful.
take a walk by yourself?
No, just asking myself, what is it that I need to get back into balance right now? And then allowing, like, loving yourself enough to do that, to know that, that is a worthiness thing. Like, we all love the people in our lives, and as nurturers and caregivers, and you want to make it as best as it can be for everybody that you love.
Right.
And yet recognizing that you are the first piece of that. Your balance, you coming into a state of inner harmony, is the most important thing.
Yeah. It's funny, at the very beginning, probably my biggest fear was financial. Like, okay, what happens when everything stops? And like, I can't go anywhere. I can't photograph anything. What next? Then things started happening. My art started selling, just surprising, random things happened. And now, and it's funny, so still, like, the biggest fear was always financial. And now I'm working with a coach and actually tackling it in a different way that suddenly makes me feel empowered. Nothing else changed. The numbers didn't change very much, but my internal feeling has shifted so much that now I look at the whole thing like, oh yeah, this is not a problem. This was a thing I was afraid of. And now I'm looking straight at it and I'm saying, okay, I got this. I can do this.
Yeah. It's amazing.
It is
amazing. Yeah. And I think we're seeing, it's interesting. I think it is about economic balance, your own and in the world around us. I think it is also bringing those systems into balance in ways, but we first have to create it within ourselves.
Yeah.
Right.
And I was pushing all that under the rug. I was like, okay, it's so overwhelming. I don't want to look at it. And now I'm just like, okay, let's get in there and let's just like clean the whole basement. And It's kind of a
Yeah.
great feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I did have one other insight in all of this. The reason that my closets are not organized, and the reason why I haven't gone through and taken out all the things that I no longer want, put them in bags, and get rid of them, is not because I haven't had enough time. It's just because I darn right don't want to do it. After 4 months of being home, I'm like, I guess I actually don't really want to clean that closet as bad as I thought I did.
Interesting. Yeah.
So there's one insight.
Yeah. Well, and you know
Have
what?
enough time.
I think one of the things we notice, it's because it's not about enough time, it's about priorities within time.
Yeah.
What? Who cares? Who cares about the closet? Not
Yep.
really on my top 10 list.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
and it's
True.
so much easier to let go of everything
Mhm.
that's not on your top 10 list right now because you're like, yeah,
Mhm.
my bandwidth can handle 10, like
Yeah.
maybe 5
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing. It's fun. So, but
It's super fun.
these conversations are always so, I mean, it's just one of the things that brings me some of the greatest joy, and just love talking with you. I'm grateful for you in my life, and I've just really enjoyed this conversation so much. So thank you, dear.
Same here. Same, same, same.
Been awesome. And look forward to seeing how this all transpires for you and what amazing gifts come from it.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Yeah.
I will see you
Awesome.
in September.
All right. I'll see you in
That's,
September.
that's the plan.
Thank you so much. Have a great
Whatever
rest
that
of your
is.
day. All right. Bye, everybody.
All right. Bye.